I'm having a little wander around Evolve, and it's Evolve 26, powered by Silicon Brighton, a well-known agency, company, organisation in Brighton that has really influenced the developments in the field of technology, certainly in the city and beyond here. Sounds like an advert for them, but there behind this event, I've got my event guide here. It's full of stuff, and here's the usual kind of exhibition. And the thing I'm noticing is the words AI, of course, are splattered everywhere, and pretty much everything in this program is about AI. Artificial intelligence, people are converging now on various sessions that they're going to. But for me, as I've recorded and written about before, it's a very broad and undefined term. It's certainly a brand, AI, and people have bought into that brand, but there are definitely some really influential scientists, writers in the field that says this is not AI. At best, it's artificial impersonation, and it's really clever, brilliant, miraculous, and problematic, complex computing labelled as AI. And if you've got the time and you want to look up things like quantum computing, organoid computing, you might find that AI actually takes a very different form, and it might not even need the enormous data centres which are powering all kinds of share price rises, infrastructure projects, huge amounts of funding. But actually we might find that AI goes in a different direction to that. What I'm noticing here in the exhibition is there's very little mention overtly of AI. There are insurance companies as usual, accounting firms, training companies, business accelerators, and a few interesting use cases about how agentic computing can work in engineering, and how AI is being used to power better decision making and the access to information. Some of the consultancy companies like KPMG are here. Obviously, all of those companies more or less successfully have jumped on the AI bandwagon. But when I look in this program, there are definitely some really specific cases around things like the rise of vibe coding, agentic AI, and there are some philosophical conversations. And perhaps not surprisingly, you look up Richard Freeman, who's a real champion of city-level development, region-level development. We're looking also at some of the questions around, is AI good for humanity? What are some of the risks? What are some of the problems going on? But you'll see there's different spaces here. There's a pioneer space where there are talks. There's an innovator space. And there's a builder's space. And building has become the metaphor that's been around computing for a long time. And you'll find it in AI around building apps using vibe coding and that kind of thing. For me, with a background at the University of Brighton and in our School of Business and Law for many years in innovation, I'm interested because innovation can be defined very clearly as being very different from invention. We can come up with all kinds of inventions, but only when they deliver tangible returns, which you can measure very differently from just making money. It becomes an innovation, and it's perceived by the crowd, it's perceived by communities, by companies, by individuals. We look back on in history as being an innovation because there was a return, and so that return doesn't only have to be financial. So as I walk around here looking forward to a day ahead, probably it's a Brighton Centre, it's one of the big events in the Brighton calendar. There's a lot of people here. I'm interested in what some of the questions are that go a bit deeper than AI simply being seen as, I call it, a technophilic solution, that we've rather unquestionably taken it on as a paradigm shift, but has it actually proved itself yet as a paradigm shift? Certainly the measures are that there's a huge amount of share price rise going on, but if any of those companies, the big ones, were ever liquidated suddenly, there's very little real sales coming in at the moment. A couple of people I'll shout out, you might want to look at people like Stephen Klein and Jeffrey Funk, as two people on LinkedIn a lot, bringing in some of the evidence around this might be a tech bubble. As a social scientist, I'm very interested in bubbles that burst, but they can burst all over humanity, and that can create all kinds of problems. AI itself might be replacing jobs, but there's actually very little evidence at the moment that it's replacing jobs significantly, and quite often organisations, businesses are creating narratives that say we've saved 20,000 jobs, but when you actually look at what jobs were saved, it's been an excuse to just do big job cuts, and it's not that specifically linked to AI benefit. In fact, the audit trail is often very, very suspect. You'll also see places like this, the banks getting into accelerators, and obviously wanting to be involved in and get the customers for businesses that they can help support and take through with education, sometimes with just hot desking space, to take their idea, in this case perhaps they're looking at companies that are trying to develop AI solutions, but also to innovate and to take them beyond the idea into the innovation that actually has a genuine return that allows them to survive as businesses. Business failure rate in all countries is quite high. Businesses don't get the basics right and run out of steam and money within the first 18 months or so, and then businesses that go forward to 5 years fail because they fail to innovate. And certainly I've been interested in what that process is. And the danger is, of course, is if we get AI to do our thinking too much for us, we don't come up with the genuine original sparks of innovation that we need. And so we've always been interested in how you generate ideas, trying to teach things like creativity and entrepreneurship and innovation to our own students at the University of Brighton. I think most universities with business schools, departments of business, are trying to do that all the time. But I'm interested particularly in how we hold our own. We're talking here, there's one session about what if AI becomes conscious, but my view is what if human beings become less conscious because they rely on AI to do the thinking for them, and it creates a kind of sloppy, mediocre thinking. I'm not sure we've learned how to code pure originality, or if we ever will. You'll probably notice I'm swaying a bit. I'm just walking along at the moment, enjoying the energy. There's always a huge amount of energy. It's always very, very linked to, and there's several of the stalls here have got retro computer games, and people are sitting in seats ready to drive, because there's always a link also between the idea that innovation and excitement, and that powers kind of originality when we've got an energized way of thinking. But also you've got some interesting terms around, is innovation a game, and can we gamify it in some way? But I'm also interested in the fact that innovation comes from being in quiet spaces. Lots of famous people, you probably heard, the classic legend of Einstein just looking out the window, looking into the night sky and imagining what it might be like to ride on a beam of light, and that triggers theories like theory of relativity, because we get sparked. Will AI be able to spark us, or actually will we lose our spark, but it won't matter because AI will do the spark thinking? I think that's a really interesting question. And then you've got metaphors like accelerator. That can be really important for a business, is to help businesses accelerate. But how do we keep the momentum going? What's the next wave of product or service? How do we stay in touch with what people need? And of course, how do we make that sustainable? Because we've got some very clear markers around sustainability on our planet. So there are open questions around the extent to which, here at the Evolve, how will we evolve our thinking and our practice in a way where AI serves humanity and actually doesn't replace it in a way that diminishes what we're all able to do. Certainly you can see around the world at the moment that AI can help us identify tumours in cancer and can save lives, but equally it can power and fly drones that drop deadly payloads on buildings, people, and so on. That's always going to be the double-edged sword of technology. It's not new to artificial intelligence. But what might be new are the questions we have to answer to start to govern and control and manage and be with something that, even if it doesn't develop consciousness, is going to start having a functional ability that might exceed our own in certain areas of society. And certainly with certain news stories at the moment, will we have an off switch? That's for me a big question. So here I am at Evolve. I'm enjoying it. I'm looking forward to also reflecting, for me as someone that works in theatre, on how AI is going to affect the arts. I go up to the Edinburgh Fringe. How will it affect originality and creativity? And also, how will it manage that content? What will happen to copyright? Will AI artists replace real human artists? Writing music is already doing that. Have a look at Morgan Luna on YouTube to see what AI is capable of. And yet a music expert I spoke to listened to it, and I was gobsmacked by it, and he just immediately said that's AI. I somehow feel relieved by that. What are the narratives? Are they narratives of replacement and usurping, or are they narratives of serving, where we remain the master? It's good to be at Evolve. It's good, hopefully, to be asking some of these questions amongst all the products and services and ideas and success stories and challenges on show as well.